Okay, so this is a little bit of stuff I've taken from various places and / written myself, so bear with me. So Aries New Moon. So it's very dynamic. It's initiating something big and bold in our life. So that's what kind of Aries as a sign is all about. So basically, there are 4 planets that Aries is activating at the moment, and it's all about kind of new beginnings. So I don't know if some of you saw a post earlier that I did today, but it's actually the first new moon of the new astrological year. So basically, in the astrology world, this is the first new moon of the year. So weirdly, sometimes it's quite nice to like revisit intentions at this time of the year in April, because actually it's kind of the right time astrologically to do that. So I wonder how that sits in terms of us doing New Year's resolutions in January, because I don't know if you felt how I did, in that I felt quite stuck in January. I couldn't really think about the vision boarding, think about what I wanted to bring in, mainly because probably we're going into a national lockdown again. But 2, I realize now that I'm not going to be doing that in January, because actually it feels better for me to do that in April. So that's why I think sometimes it's looking back at these things that are happening, and actually it's nice sometimes to think, yeah, actually it feels like a better time to do that in April. And I will talk a bit later. I've got a vision boarding self-love club event next Thursday, which is actually perfect timing for this for you guys, because actually I think doing a vision board of almost what that looks like moving forward post program is quite a nice time for you to actually like reevaluate some of those, almost what does the future look like, you know, future self stuff around keeping you grounded. So again, it's open to everyone. It's just there's nothing for me to send out or anything this time, so there's no cost because you're all part of the program. So if you want to book onto that or come, please do, because I think it might supplement the groundedness of what we're trying to get you, you know, to kind of almost post-program goals. It might help with regards to that. And I'm doing it with a fellow coactive coach called Rachel, so we train together. So it's our first like collab of bringing 2 of us together, which will be quite nice. So you get a different energy, a different perspective of someone else as well. So yeah, I don't know how that sits in terms of doing it again in April, but it's all about setting our intentions again, almost from this April start, really. And it's the first sign of the zodiac, the Aries. So it's deeply personal, and it's all about what you want. So it's reminding you to realign your energy with what matters most, which is obviously everything we've talked about through the program. And it's encouraging you to take back your energy and plug any energy leaks by setting and maintaining healthy boundaries. So we talked a lot about this in the program as well, haven't we, around boundaries. So again, it's a really nice time to kind of realign that with then something bigger that's going on, because sometimes we feel like a small fish in the ocean, but actually there's something bigger with the moon cycles and a collective energy that's going on. So sometimes it's nice to just know that we're not alone in some of these harder feelings when we feel them. So again, we'll be focusing a little bit next week, but it's a great chance to think about what matters to you. So vision boarding stuff is really, really good to do. And ultimately, we're encouraging at this time to tap into what we value most and where we want to go future. So it's about holding us accountable to that future self of actually, what do we want to hold on to about this process of the journey within? Like, what's the stuff that's like non-negotiable for you moving forward, that you know your boundaries around it, but also you kind of know what you don't want to fall back into in terms of old patterns as well. So again, it kind of talks about, at this time we sense a bit of pressure around us, so pressure to fall back into old patterns as well, and actually getting really clear about what we want. So that's kind of almost the feeling around that. And there's a lot more around almost like where the planets are specifically in retrograde and what's going on wider. So for some of you, you might want me to almost just send you something else with regards to kind of the detail of that, but I also am aware some of you are very new to this, so it might overwhelm you. So what I might do is literally just post that on the group for those of you that almost want to see a little bit more about what's going on. But the main message is it's around starting new things around that new moon. It's about initiation, it's about action. So it's a really good time for us to get really clear about actually the steps we want to take and the how. And actually that's really aligned to commitment. So it's a nice evolution of things happening when they're meant to happen. And with the vision boarding workshop too, that was just a freak accident. So it does show, like, I don't plan any of this. It kind of just does all fall into place sometimes, but not always. Right. So what I'd like to explore initially is just a perspective around commitment. So I'm going to put 6 statements in the chat box, and I'd like you to tell me which of those resonate the most for you around your perspective of commitment. Because commitment's such an interesting one. It's sometimes a positive thing for some people, but a lot of us have these negative perceptions of commitment. And I think the first step is me understanding that, so we can then build the action plan that's then the right action plan for you to keep you grounded. So if I just pop those into the chat box now, you should be able to see them. And what I just want you to do is tell me the number. So what is your perspective around commitment? So the first one, it's an opportunity to express my life purpose. So that's a very positive statement around commitment. It's limiting, like a straitjacket. It's something that creates powerful intention. It's hard to hold on to. It's scary and overwhelming. It makes life solid. That's what I'm going to say, solid and real. And it makes life exciting and juicy. So which of those resonates the most in terms of your perspective around commitment? Feel free to either type a number, shout a number, whatever you guys want to do. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I like that. Anyone else? Carolyn, Molly?
I'm actually not quite sure which one to pick, to be honest.
And it's the one that at the moment feels, because this might change as you kind of explore commitment and the relationship with commitment, but it's the one that probably feels most like it resonates.
I think for me it's almost between 2 and 3.
Okay.
Which is a bit strange, but
yeah, interesting. So I think it's funny because when I first was asked this question, I had number 4. And actually, as I moved through kind of a journey of self-development and I explored commitment and kind of action and those daily tasks and kind of forming positive habits, it moved into a 3. So this can change as we explore ways to kind of develop in this area as well. And I'd be interested, because Molly's the only one that's put 2. Talk me through that, Molly, because again, it's so interesting that we're at different points with this perception and perspective around commitment.
I think that shows it's kind of similar to what we spoke about at the end of last week, where I said about how I enjoy juggling lots of different things. So committing to one, committing to one thing, it's not that I find it, I could have maybe put 4 or 5. But I don't really find it scary or overwhelming. I kind of like it. I thrive off doing lots of different things. I thrive off being able to, you could, my mum tells me all the time, woman of many talents, and you could split your CV into 4 different CVs. So yeah, I like being able to go to do lots of things. So I find commitment quite limiting. It's funny how I don't know, commitment is a strange word, because it would be even interesting to find out what everyone else would your first thought when you think of commitment. Because for me, it was when you
search it, it's relationships, and actually,
that's what I was about to say. Yeah,
which is why I put a lot in that in your work around why you commit to others, yourself, or outcome. Because actually, a lot of the time, our belief around commitment, right, is actually for someone else. It's about committing to others. That's how we learn about commitment, hence relationships. But actually, this is about reviewing your relationship to commitment with almost you at the heart. Because it's about actually getting to a point with commitment where you're doing it for you, because of you. And actually, it's then inside out almost. But sometimes we've got to work back from where we're at. And a lot of us initially are at that outcome success bit, because that's how society has programmed us to kind of achieve, really. So you can see why I'm going back a bit in terms of exploring this, because this is something that can change all the time, but we learn a little bit about commitment, and actually sometimes that's the barrier then for us to engage with it as a subject.
And also I think like when I thought about it, it's like and maybe I'm finding it that it's limiting me, because like I think I'm kind of always thinking like, oh, I need to commit to being always okay and not being in that mindset anymore. But actually I don't think I would be the person I am today if I wasn't continually growing every day, and if I had good days and bad days. So yeah, I don't like commitment. I just decided that right here and now.
But then what if it wasn't commitment? What if that wasn't the right word for you, Molly? Like, what's the right word? Because again, like this isn't about making it a straitjacket.
Maybe I'm thinking that commitment is actually like a control, and I'm from day one I said I don't want to be control. I don't want to be in control anymore. So maybe that's why I'm saying I don't like commitment, because actually I'm really saying I don't like control.
It's conflicting a value there of freedom, probably, you know. And again, like this is why commitment isn't the right word for a lot of you. Hence, let's find the right word that almost kind of encourages you to continue this work you've done and root it in and ground it in, because a lot of this can be really great conversation, but it's about those daily things. And commitment, whether it is the right word or not, it's about those daily actions that we're kind of developing, really. Because actually I talk about this a lot, but most of us kind of in our 30s, Molly a little bit younger, and 30s, and Karen, I didn't know you were in your 55. You literally look 40. Honestly, I was so impressed, by the way. Sorry to put you literally on the I was really surprised when you told me that. That's a little compliment there, throwing you away, by the way, because I put us all in the same boat there, see. Karen's like, I'll take that. What was I going to say? I've lost my train of thought now. Talking a little bit about programming, a lot of our mindset stuff has been in place for me 33 years. So when I'm then trying to change a program or change a mindset loop, it takes me to rewire my brain. It takes quite a lot of work to actually like hold ourselves in accountability around making that change, which is why New Year's resolutions don't work necessarily, because we don't give them long enough to actually kind of bed in, if that makes sense. So a lot of this is actually, we're thinking about it as rewiring our brain. We're actually like we're writing a new program for ourselves. And this is why we talk about daily actions, because actually if we are creating a new habit, actually it has to be broken down little and often. It has to be structured. It has to be treated like we're learning a new skill or technique. And that's why I talk a lot about like life purpose last week, about, okay, what does that look like every day? How do I know at the end of the day that you've ticked that box of actually being in alignment with your purpose? And you might tell me that you cooked a wholesome meal, that you met with a friend for a coffee, that you had a conversation with a colleague from an authentic place. So those daily things become the change. Does that make sense? In that we have to go back to those tiny little things, which is why I gave you that structure of that kind of weekly, daily, almost log, because we can't expect to jump from, yes, we've done all this work, but it's about rooting down and almost really being strict about some of these initial small changes, and therefore commitment. Does that make sense? And is there any questions on that? Because that's quite a mindset like overload.
So I struggle with this a little bit, with the commitment side of things, because obviously doing a bit more sort of research and understanding my human design a bit more, I should follow my gut. That is, as a generator, I should do what feels right. I should never question that. And sometimes I find that people push back on those things because you've made a commitment.
Yeah.
And actually, it doesn't feel right later down the line. So it's quite difficult. I mean, I know that I should make commitments to myself about creating positive habits and these things, but outwardly to the world, I struggle with commitment because I don't want to let somebody down.
Yeah, but you know that it might change from the original. So that's maybe then, and this is why that kind of survey was starting to try and get you thinking about how you'd adjust these. So it's maybe thinking about commitments that you make with someone at work, for example, and allowing them to be a bit more fluid. So maybe having a commitment that maybe doesn't have like an extreme end date, for example, or some, do you see what I mean? In that you're making a commitment, but it's a looser commitment that almost there's fluidity there for you to change or slightly adapt it if it's not feeling quite right. So there's a way that you can still have a commitment, but it's not structured in the same way that actually you're tied in stone to that.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that's quite hard. So I think we could almost pick that up separately, almost really, and brainstorm that. But there's a way you can do it that doesn't kind of tie you. Yeah, I think you kind of get it. You're understanding what I'm trying to say there in terms of it's not being bound by that. It's having some freedom for that to flow and be organic. And that's how we frame that then conversation.
Yeah. Thank you.
And we will touch on, because interestingly, the human design stuff is a really big part of a lot of this, but because we've had a bit of a split scenario with half of us really love that work and half of us not really resonate with it, it's kind of a funny one in that I think that would be really nice to pick up almost like as a almost separate conversation with the human design commitment piece and actually understand that, because I focused a lot on the Dharma quiz today. So I'm going to reference back to the Dharma quiz in terms of commitment styles. So do you guys remember what type you were from that initial quiz? So the 4 types, I can read them out to you. They are, where have they gone? Yeah, so guide, leader, creator, and maker. So I don't know if you guys want to shout out which ones you were, or maybe type it in the chat box. Maker, Karen's a maker. And did that resonate with you, that Jay Shetty Dharma quiz stuff? It was a long time ago now. We almost got to think back to it, really.
I was muted, sorry. Not really. Those are the things I'm really interested in revisiting.
Yeah, because right at the beginning for you, I remember you being quite overwhelmed because there was quite a lot to catch up on, wasn't there? So actually that might be something that is quite nice to go back to now, because Jay Shetty's work is all about leaning into your strengths rather than working on your weaknesses. So it's all about embracing those things that feel easy rather than the things that feel hard.
No, I'm really, really wanting to revisit it. And now I really learned how to slow down. It's something I can look at, whereas I almost just sort of rushed through it just to get the answer and didn't really.
Yeah. But I think that again, that's good learning for me to know that, have that feedback, because I think we're all so different and need kind of the information framed in a different way, which is why moving forward I've decided as well that I won't include both the human design and the Dharma quiz. I'm probably just going to do the Dharma, and then I'm going to bring in the human design as like another layer of like a bolt-on workshop or something, because it's a lot if you're trying to like figure them both out and then there's so much to get through. I think it can be quite overwhelming, unless it really resonates like it has with Georgie, and then you're just kind of off on your own journey, really.
I'm going to have a quick look to see if I've got my results from the human design. I would have kept it. I'm just going to have a little search.
Yeah, do, because I'd like to know actually. So we've got maker. So I'm guide. We've got leader. Molly thinks she's a leader. Redo it. Yeah, and if you can, guys, have a look back at that quiz. It gives you what it does. I'll try and drop this image in the chat box, but if you remember, it's the mode of ignorance, the mode of impulse, and the mode of goodness. So those were the 3 modes. And actually, there's a bit of a hint in terms of commitment here, what your relationship might be to commitment using that information. And that's why I kind of wanted to bring it back, because it's another perspective as to how you might shape commitment in a way that frees you and supports you rather than restrains you. Because commitment ultimately shouldn't make you feel like this, Molly. If it does, it probably isn't being framed in the right way. So for you, Molly, like, how can commitment encourage you to feel free? You know, it's about using that word and then framing and setting that up differently, because it doesn't have to be restraining, but that's our society perspective of what commitment is. It's setting yourself up for success with that knowledge. Karen's still hunting away, I can tell. Cool, amazing. So how much do you guys remember about that? Because I was going to do a little bit of a breakout into exploring that in a group, but I'm aware that some of you might kind of have not necessarily remembered or have it in front of you. So how do you want me to skip over that bit, or do you rather have just 5 minutes to talk about how the quiz might align? What would be most useful?
I have everything written down, so I'm ready if everybody else wants to.
It might be worth just a conversation to actually kind of remind yourselves a bit about what that meant and how it might, from that perspective, almost support you in that conversation around commitment, and just share a little bit of maybe how the module went, because this is very much moving away from the content and looking at your personality style around commitment. Quick question: when you did those questions around others, yourself, and outcome, what was it that came out in terms of the reason why you make commitments? Did you find that there was a theme of doing it in a certain way?
I think I'm a bit confused at what. I don't think I remember, maybe.
There was just a few questions around kind of why you make commitments, almost like I think my exact wording was almost like, why might you commit to your life purpose? And one of the answers was for others, for myself, for others, or for like to get a new job or to kind of reach a goal. So they were the 3 types of questions. I don't know if you guys remember, but it's basically 3 types. There's a hierarchical diagram in the e-learning that basically says yourself, others, or outcome. So it's knowing why you make commitments for yourself, your others, or for outcome. And then it's just understanding then how you might frame the commitment to then match your style, really. I know that Georgie, you've just said it's more yourself. Did you say that at the beginning? You make commitments for yourself. So again, having that knowledge of actually, if you know that, then actually you're going to frame or set it up in a completely different way.
Mine was I think it was number 2, commitment to others, but I'm striving to get to the one at the top.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm, learning how to do that. And I think some of the commitments I want to make for myself will allow me to get there.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love that. So almost your commitment is to kind of get you to that top triangle, really. And that's the intention of actually the journey within, is all about it being all about ourselves and then the ripple effect outward from that. But actually we're all at different points, especially like me, if like me, I've lived my whole life seeking external validation from the world. So I'm not suddenly going to be able to be like just doing it for me all the time, because I slip back into, but are you happy? And if you're happy, I'm happy. That becomes my conditioning, right? Because that's actually the external validation playing out. So this is just another level of awareness. Any other thoughts on those 3? No, all good. Okay, I'll give you 5 minutes just to have literally a bit of a chat around mainly the Dharma quiz, your interpretation of your relationship to commitment, any kind of perspective you want to share. And then we'll come back and talk a little bit about those kind of daily actions, those daily things that we might be wanting to do or hold ourselves to account doing moving forward. And the vision boarding workshop, if you guys can make that, will really help with this, because I feel like it'll almost make it'll give you the bigger picture bit, which is the lovely vision board of like, being really big picture creative. And then you'll have the daily tasks. And for me, that's like the perfect combination, because one isn't possible without the other. Because initially we need a bit of structure of being like, if I get to Friday and haven't done a yoga class for myself, for example, then you're a bit off kilter. So you can see how the vision and then the kind of daily tasks, they're both really important. Okay, right, I'm going to give you 5, off you go and enjoy. I'm as ever going to assign you automatically, and one of you will be with me. So 2 breakout rooms, 1 with me. Off we go. Oh, actually, I think it's going to put 3 of you together. So I'll come in the group with the other one. There we go.
the link.
Yes, I remember it, but did we fill it out when it was sent to us by email? I can't remember. I'm just trying to find the human design results.
I think it was for self-download, maybe. So I'm not sure it's on email.
I can send you the body graph here, Karen, if you want to do it again.
Yeah, I'm going to do it again, definitely.
It was mybodygraph.com. I'll send it here. This is again where what I'm going to do, Carolyn. We talked a little bit at the weekend, me and Karen, about having a workbook that almost goes alongside the course, so that you guys can like have the activity, write it down somewhere. Because I think, and this is what I've experienced from other coaching as well, is that you can have so many things in different places and it gets a bit overwhelming. So what I'm going to do is put together like an electronic document that you can almost have it all in, write your answers in, because obviously the system takes some answers, but I don't see that.
Well, and we don't get to see them anymore, do we?
So again, it's making sure that we have like a physical place to write it so that we can go back and then refer. So again, this is just really good, notes for me to make in the future, really. I've just put it in there for you, Karen.
Thank you. I'll have a look at that. My Dharma results, it splits it into 4.
Yeah.
The strongest percentage was maker, closely followed by leader.
Okay. Then
guide and creator. So I guess we just, honestly, Natalie and Carolyn, I really need to revisit this, because
that's fine, because ultimately it's just that's why it's in the pre-work, because it's just an additional tool that might be useful. It's another lens to look at it at. So it's not essential. It might not even resonate. And I say to people, if it doesn't resonate, don't worry, because it's just another tool.
Well, so for me, I struggled with this, to be honest. I like this other quiz, this 16 personalities or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's a good one, isn't it?
I really liked it, but I didn't quite understand how they matched, because it's supposed to be the same thing, right? But I didn't know what my guide meant on the other one. So I struggled slightly. But
maybe focusing a bit more on the translation of those two would be really useful.
That would be useful, yeah. But what I'm looking at the Dharma one now, and I do like this, the mode of goodness and ignorance and impulse. So I think that those are actually quite interesting.
Yeah.
Only I really struggled with this quiz, because it was just, I think it was like 4 answers each time, and I always felt I was between 2. So I struggled choosing, and I did it twice, and the first time came out maker and the second time guide. So I think I'm somewhere in between, or maybe it's just my English just isn't good enough to answer the questions. That's also possible.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, it's all just good, interesting. And I think that I'll take your point about the 16 personalities link, because I think that 16 personalities test is quite well known in the world.
Well, and it's you don't just have yes or no. You can answer on a scale, which is much easier.
Yeah, of course. No, that makes a lot of sense. And on the commitment side, is it something you guys feel comfortable with, making commitments? Like when you looked at that, and I don't know if you probably haven't looked at that yet, but it's almost that weekly diary. Like, does that feel comfortable to commit to like weekly tasks, or does that feel a bit like, because again, we're very different as human beings, so we need to talk the right language for ourselves, really.
Yeah, at first I thought, oh gosh, but again, it was sort of forcing me to do exactly what I've learned how to do, and it's about slowing down. And mine's really simple, because I reviewed my goals that I set out in the beginning. Some I've achieved, some I've partially achieved, and one of which was, my continuation of learning of well-being and meditation and the breathing. And I'm feeling the benefits of that. So I know it will help me to keep this pace at the level it is at the minute. If I could do some meditation each day, and I don't mean half an hour, but 5 minutes. How do you do that? I don't know. I need to be educated. You
need to buy the Calm app. It's amazing.
The what? Sorry?
Calm app.
Okay.
It's Calm, and it's an app, and basically it gives you a daily 10-minute meditation, and you just put it on your phone every day. But it's so good because it's just easy. I think you pay like £30 for them for the year or something like that, but it's such a good one.
That's one that is also the same as Down Dog and all those, no? That comes with several apps.
Yeah, there's
because
quite
I'm doing the yoga.
Headspace is another one.
Day.
Yeah.
So it's actually, I think you pay once and you get like 5 apps or something.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I want to commit to, don't laugh, but I need a mantra.
Oh, I love that. We've talked a bit about mantras, haven't we, through this program?
Yes, I know.
Your commitment
Jasmine.
statements are often your mantra.
Right, okay.
Your
Okay.
yeses, like I will say yes to, that's often the start of a mantra.
Because I thought in my notes or my homework, I was thinking, is it my life purpose statement? No, that's too long. This is me asking myself questions and answering it and not really coming up with a mantra. But every day I hear myself, you've got this, Karen, you've got this, because I'm going through a challenging time at the minute. I don't want it to be that, because that's all about coping with the situation I'm in and the work. This needs to be more about, I don't know what it needs to be about, but it's I feel.
What about, do you remember we did these billboards? What about using that as your mantra, whatever you put on your billboard?
Yeah, the bit you need access to. Do you remember you gave them all an I am statement? That could be a really good one to revisit, which energy you need to access, and then using that as a mantra.
That's not actually the one I mean. You know, we did these billboards where you said yours initially was just do it, and then you changed it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Those ones, I mean, I'm not sure what Karen had. I think they could be a mantra.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a guided, that was one of the guided visualizations.
No, it was one of the homework ones.
Okay, we'll find that and I'll send it to you, because again, there's lots of ways we can make them into mantras, and I will bring that back to the group actually, because that's a really good daily small breakdown activity that brings us back to our program goals. And I will ask the group as well around program goals if there's anything you feel like you've almost ticked off or not achieved, because actually it's a really good chance to like cement ourselves back in the stuff that we really wanted to gain out of the program. We might have like slightly shifted, or sometimes they're all like cross through, because you're like, I don't want that anymore, I want this stuff, and we've completely changed our program goals. That sometimes happens.
Yeah, no, I did all of that in the homework. I found it quite interesting this week to see how far I'd come. You know, if I'm honest, I had to look back to sort of see what my goals were.
I know, it's hard, isn't it, to remember?
I think I made 6 or so, and I'm like, oh, done, all partially. So I want that to happen, you know. So
what about you, Carolyn? Did you have any that you were like almost reminding yourself of, and how did you feel like you'd achieved them so far?
So for me, I think at the moment I'm quite good, but life is so different to like how it used to be, you know. So I'm not sure whether I can remain the same person when life goes back to normal.
Yeah,
so
I know
how I cope with that and all that. So I think
why doing it now is really powerful, because actually we're doing it before it opens up, so we have a chance to get ahead of the curve and like get start almost.
But at the moment, life is like, it's just so relaxed and so simple in a way, you know.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting to see when work goes back to 100%, and
absolutely
like all the whatever social pressures and everything comes back. Then yeah, I'm interested to see how I can continue or what I need to change.
Yeah, and again, maybe you want to use your call at that point when you're like, because I said this to someone today actually, like we were organizing our next one, and I said, think about when you maybe are going to need a bit of support to stay grounded. So maybe choosing to have it early May, because actually you're going to need to then hold you know, almost have the accountability. So maybe thinking about when you might want to use that time to keep yourself in that zone of, we call it zone of genius, or on purpose.
Yes. Yeah, and I think for me, my biggest program goal was the to find ways to access the inner leader.
Yes.
When I need that. And I am trying to play with that a little bit, but I think not as actively as I should probably to really learn it.
Or maybe that becomes a mantra too. That could be something.
Maybe. I'm trying to be quite aware as to when I'm moving between the different different energies and how that happens and sort of, but I'm not. So what I would love to achieve is when I don't know what to do, that I can just access this inner self.
Yeah, like this, like go, turn it on. Yeah, like a light switch.
I haven't really tried to ask it the question yet, because at the moment I just don't have so many questions. You know, it's not as necessary as it is in my like normal life.
Yeah. I love that.
So yeah, wait and see how that goes.
Can't wait to hear. And I think it's just keeping us, and there will be so many chances to ask, but we haven't necessarily seen the trigger yet or had the conflict, because we've been in our own little bubble, right?
Yeah,
like, so actually it's not been hard yet. It probably will get a bit harder to keep grounded in this, which is why the commitment is really important. Right, I'm going to leave you guys for another minute. I'm going to go check on the others and then bring you back. See you shortly.
Okay.
Oh, how do I get out? There we go. I always forget how I get out. Oh, it's not going
moving us out.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Hello. I didn't make it into your room, Georgie and Molly, in the end. How did you get on with your conversation? How did you're both smiling. You're both giggling away.
We got sidetracked.
Did you? It's all right. It's fine. That's okay. That's all right. It doesn't matter. What I would love to do though is spend a bit of time revisiting the program goals as a result of some of this commitment as well. And I'd love to hear, because we were talking to Carolyn and Karen about almost looking back, and they both said we almost couldn't really remember some of those goals they'd made. So again, it's a really nice point to almost look at, though. I think we made 6 or so, but to then use the commitment on the goals you still haven't achieved. So this is where the commitment will come in really strongly for those goals that you're like, oh, I've not even started that one. I really need to kind of ground that in. Or you might get rid of a few that you're like, yeah, it was a goal, but now it doesn't resonate with me because you've changed. You're not the same person you were when you started this program. So if your goals have changed, that's fine too. Lose them. Did anyone have any reflections when they looked at that kind of first personal program goal bit and actually think, oh God, that wasn't, I forgot about that one or something? Everyone's gone quiet on me.
Oh, Karen was going to talk. She looked like she was going to talk, so I was waiting.
I've already shared mine with Natalie, but I'm happy to share
it with the group, Karen. Yeah, it'd be useful.
With the group. So the homework this week was to revisit the program goals, and I said to Natalie, oh, I'd almost forgotten what goals I'd set. So I sort of looked at each one and went through, and I thought, yeah, tick, tick, tick. There was nothing I wanted to scrap, but there's some that I've not quite achieved. And my 30 days of practice that we've also did during the homework will get me to achieve all of my program goals, which is quite fantastic.
I'm really excited. I couldn't clap then, and so I was stuck in my jumper. I was like, sorry, carry on.
So yeah, I couldn't remember what they were. I opened them up and I thought, wow. And I've literally commented on them. I've put, wow, I've really achieved this. And somewhere I haven't. And I'm determined to achieve it. And I'm going to do that through what I've learned and what I want to continue practicing once the course is finished.
Yeah.
And yeah, just form very good habits. So I can achieve those goals, and then that's with me for life. And then we set more goals, I guess.
Then we keep going, we keep learning, unlearning, we keep going. Can I ask you, when you gave me those, so Karen gave me some daily actions, which was really good because this is where I want to get us to. So meditating every day for at least 5 minutes. We talked about like a Calm app or a meditation app that might support her to kind of have access to those really easily. And we talked about a daily mantra as well. Which of those program goals do they align to, Karen, if you don't mind me asking?
They align to,
I've got a feeling of which one it is. Slowing down, I think, keeping you at that slower pace.
Yeah, slowing down. But one of them was about building a greater knowledge of general well-being and meditation, and now I'm feeling the benefits of what I've learned already. I'm sort of hungry to keep learning and keep doing the meditation, like I've said, every day, because it's that actually forces me to slow down. And with anything, if you're consistent in doing something, it then becomes a natural habit. You're forming that natural habit. So for me it is slowing down, getting into that, bringing me back to the core value of peace and harmony and those type of things. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, amazing, thank you. And I think that's how I hoped it would go, but I really struggled to like bring this together because I haven't done this before, remember? And like I've got the content and I love the content, but how I bring it together, it's like it's hard. And I want to ask you guys as well, like, what do you need? Like, what do you need to keep yourself in the essence of actually what you've learned? Like, what can I do to support you? Because next week is all about a review of the 3 modules and looking at what you've learned and dipping into the content a bit more. So you've got then that and commitment. But again, it's like open to the floor to kind of, for me to make this what you need it to be as well. Because this is, like I've said, you are guinea pigs. And this is why I'm going to ask you, like, how can I be the best person to be that guide to kind of almost keep you accountable as well? Because it does sound like that landed for you, Karen, and I hope that that's almost what I was planning on, but I am guessing here because we all need different things. So it's almost 2 questions there. Anyone wants to share anything on the program goals, revisiting that, but secondly, anything you might need?
Can I just say a load of random things?
Yeah.
1, I'm really sad that this is coming to an end very soon. I feel
we've got 2 more weeks yet.
And 2, Karen, I just want to tell you that the change in your body language and your face and everything since the beginning of the program is incredible. Like, honestly, you're like a different person. You really are.
Thanks, guys. I mean, it's been,
I agree.
It has been a great journey, and I don't want to lose, like you just said there, Georgie. I love the momentum of all of this. I love our get-togethers, and I'm also almost a little bit anxious, apprehensive about what am I going to do when we're not doing all of this and being held accountable. So at the very least, I think we should continue with the Slack group or form a WhatsApp group or something. And because although we're getting to know one another a little bit more, how wonderful would it be just to continue
be each other's cheerleaders, like from now and forever, almost like keeping each other's corner. It's funny you say that, you're leading me in perfectly to the fact that I would love to trial an alumni, VIP alumni kind of group with you guys that is very much a guinea pig group. So I'm literally I don't want to charge anything for it. It'll keep you in the Slack channel. And my intention is that there'll be weekly like information that I'll post, but there'll be a monthly kind of activity or recording or maybe live session. I haven't decided yet, but there'll be something that will keep you going. So if you guys are open to that, I think I'd love to put that together, because I feel like what it is going to be is almost me dropping in some of the content, the old content that makes you reframe that content in a real life scenario. So it's almost giving you activities where you can bring your leader within or like reconnect. So it's nothing new. We're not really teaching anything new, but we're going back, we're using some of the content and actually kind of reminding you guys of it, revisiting it. And we're celebrating our own successes of like, I met my leader, or I brought my leader within to work today, and this is how it felt. You know, it's those things, because a lot of this as well isn't going to suddenly happen in 12 weeks. Our successes will be to come, you know. So I think if you guys are open to that, I would love to kind of set that up, and it probably will be the same space that we've created on Slack. I'll just have a think about how I want to keep that going, and get your thoughts individually on kind of whether that is a monthly face-to-face or whether you'd rather it be something a bit more offline. But it sounds like maybe even a monthly group coaching session could work for you guys. We're getting nods. Yeah. So that's maybe something to try, isn't it, initially? So we're not kind of going like, bye. And that's where, again, the community can help in that's there, but it's more on the delivery side. I feel like there needs to be something continuing about around the coaching. Okay, cool. I love that, because I didn't know, again, I don't know what, you know, it might be that you guys are exhausted, you know, like, I need a break, you know. So again, that's good for me to hear. Anyone else want to share any of their program goals that they maybe forgot about or want to revisit? Or Molly, you're looking very like you're thinking hard there. I'm interested what you're thinking.
I'm looking at my goals. Are you talking about like the things that we wrote down
right at the beginning?
Yeah. So I'm looking at my first page. There's definitely ones on there that I like. And then there's like I feel like I've done or I'm working towards, but there's definitely ones on there that I don't know whether I ever will be able to tick it off. And I don't know until.
And that's okay if you don't know. But actually the fact that there's some on there that you have made progress with is absolutely, because this comes back to commitment and goal, like what our view is that we have to achieve it, right? Like surely any progress is progress. And actually the fact that we've moved from A to B or moved like one step forward is amazing.
I think there's one on there that I think I need to reword for it to be ticked off maybe.
Okay. And what would the reword look like? Do you want to share?
I'm not sure, but the one that is on there currently is accepting my body. I'm not sure how I would reword it, but I think I was wanting to accept it for the body that it is now, not because it's different to the body I thought I wanted to have when that wasn't what I wanted to have. But then where I've been like unwell for the last few weeks, it's getting back to being quite like, I basically messaged my mum earlier and said, first time at the gym was great, but the first time I've looked at myself in a full-length mirror for a long time, and because I've been unwell recently, my weight has dropped and I didn't like what I saw. And she said, for you to even have said that was incredible. So it's like I'm not accepting my body ever, because I'm not accepting it before or then or now.
Maybe it's about forming a new relationship. Maybe it's about a new relationship with your body. Maybe it's like a redefining something that's new. Maybe it's about recreating what that looks like.
Yeah, so I think it's like it would be interesting if you guys all thought about like how I could reword it, because I think it needs to. I think I'm looking at it and getting a bit angry at myself that I'm never going to be able to accept it, but I don't think that's what it is. I think so. I don't think I can physically reword it. I think I need external ways to reword it.
If we kind of put a few ideas out individually to Slack, you can then pick the one that you maybe feel like you want to own. Yeah. I'll make a note.
I think you should use the word appreciate more than accept. That's what comes to mind for me, is like thinking about your body, appreciating it for what it actually does for you instead of the way it looks.
Or
it's crazy that I spent like years striving for something that I thought I wanted, and now I'm looking at it getting nearly there. Well, not nearly there, but getting towards there, and I'm like, nah, I don't want this.
That's so powerful though, isn't it? That's more powerful, the fact that you don't want that anymore, you know, like that's massive. You know, and I think there's so much learning just in that, you know. Yeah, thank you for sharing. So I know that was a big kind of
that was a lot, I think,
undercurrent of the program, wasn't it, really? But again, it's making sure there's a translation back to some of those big reasons that brought us here, because they're sometimes not about the outcomes. We've not focused in Molly's case about that specific outcome, but a lot of this work is the undercurrent of what's going on there, and unless we get the work right, the foundation right, we can't necessarily change our view of the outcome or the trigger, because that ultimately is triggering us.
I think that what Georgie said is kind of how is basically like what I've just done in a way, because this is probably the first time I've talked about that to strangers that I didn't have to. So that just just sums up what Georgie said, or even you, Karen, as well, like about, you know, just feeling comfortable with a group of people and you don't want to lose that. And when you do feel comfortable with a group of people, you probably shouldn't let them go.
No, we're not going anywhere, don't worry. I said to you the day, I was like, you do realize we're going to be like doing loads together, and like you're not going to like escape me. Molly was like, you didn't say anything, but I was like, awkward laugh. It's kind of true, because Molly's become my creative designer on the Generation, the social enterprise. So it's really exciting, so that you're starting to do some stuff for me on that side, aren't you, as well? So yeah, I feel like we've met for a reason. It's like we'll be, and we'll be present, and you know, you don't know what that looks like, but there's a future in this, and I'm so excited to see what that looks like as well. Georgie,
Karen, did you see, sorry, I just say, Karen, did you see I just put a comment on the group to you? I didn't know whether it would be helpful.
What do you mean by a time in numbers? So like, rather than
so don't say like, so I heard this on a podcast, but I also kind of agreed before. I think I did it before I heard it, but don't say like, I'm going to meditate every day at 6 when I wake up, because on the weekend you might not wake up at 6. You might want to relax, and then if you wake up at 8, if you wake up at 8 on the weekend, then you're like, oh, I can't do it now because I've missed it, and then you start feeling guilty. Just say, I'm going to meditate when I wake up, and whatever time that is depends on the day and how I feel. Maybe I lay in bed for an extra 10 minutes. Or say, I'm going to meditate after lunch, or after my work break, or after dinner. That might be different each day. So
I like that. And actually, by doing that, you're taking away the goal, the outcome. You're kind of making it quite internal. So actually talking about others, ourselves, and outcome, that's actually a very internal goal, because you're checking in. How do I feel like today? When do I want to meditate today? And you're checking in and feeling into it, rather than like, okay, it's going to be Saturday at 6 o'clock, it's in my diary. Initially, you might need to structure it like that, but the intention is we feel into it, because on a different day, we're going to need slightly different thing. One day,
and it's also
weekend,
like,
it might be 10 minutes, you know, on a weekday, it might be 2 minutes.
It's definitely also like, before you meditate as well, like, what do you want to get out of it? Before you're saying, I'm going to daily meditate, why are you doing it? Why? Like, you're doing it, are you doing it because you want to start the day in a different headspace, or are you doing it because you want to clear the headspace away from the day? Because that will determine what time you do it. Or are you doing it because you want to kind of just have a chill time for you? Then maybe do it on your break in the middle of the day, because that's your time to slow down and kind of open up the clouds, you know, and see the sky. Like, it depends why you're doing it. Like, it's always definitely worth like thinking, why am I doing it? Because if we don't know why we do things, we probably won't carry on doing them.
And you wonder, Molly, why I say that you're going to be you are going to be coaching in the future. I say that to you and you're like, yeah, maybe. I'm like, you are going to be a coach. I know that. And you step into that.
I'm just good at articulating, can't even speak, articulating words, because I read so much.
That's amazing. I love that.
Thank you for that advice, though. That's really good. I mean, I was thinking about setting a time, but you're right. You know, in my mind, I feel that this is something I need to do partway through the day, just to slow me back down, bring me back into, you know, a better pace. I mean, that might change in the future as my circumstances change, but right now that makes sense to me, to do it sort of start of a lunch break, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is how, again, you can like reframe those program goals to then put a bit more commitment around them to then make sure we achieve them. So it's just a little bit about rebalancing that back out. I was going to ask you, Georgie and Carolyn, if you wanted to share any of those program goals that you wanted, that you feel like you want some accountability on, that you haven't quite achieved, that you want to almost just voice that to us here today, because that's actually sometimes what we need to do then to hold it to account, really.
Carolyn, do you want to go?
Well, I haven't really got so much to say, to be honest. I was saying earlier that I think my life at the moment is so different. Well, I guess everybody.
You put your needles on, Sam.
To normal that I think for me now, I think I'm quite like aligned with myself and all good. But for me, it will be really interesting to see what happens when like normal life starts and how I can keep it up and not be like super stressed and not looking after myself and all that again. Because now it's, everything is good and easy. So I find it really difficult to judge how that will go for me.
And we talked about using that one-to-one call, maybe, guys, when it's like reopening up and we need a bit of like accountability, maybe when we've not spoken for a few weeks or something. So feel free to use that call when you might need it. Because we said to Carolyn, maybe using it when things were a bit more open, then you've got a bit of accountability to kind of then come back into alignment a bit more if you feel like you need to leave it a few weeks, because that second call is open to book pretty much, but it might mean that you want to use it when, you know, we've almost finished and you want to get the value. So it's completely up to you how you want to use that. But thank you for sharing, because it's a great test to be able to kind of do this now, but then not notice when then the challenges come in, be able to then have the true test when actually we've got then 7 events to go to over one weekend, and we've got to find a boundary to say no, because we know the calm and the peace, the value of peace is so important. That's going to be, and that's why the alumni will be really powerful, because actually we've not had some of those tests yet, because we're actually still in our bubble of feeling quite protected and safe, and that will start to be challenged over the next few weeks, months.
Yeah, it's quite similar for my goals. Mine are quite clearly defined in 2 sort of sections. Is like the reconnection piece and kind of like finding out who I am and reconnecting with who I am, and then it's like putting those things into action. And I feel like I'm in a very good place. I remember writing these goals thinking, Georgina, you're mad.
Really love that.
It's never going to happen, but I thought, I'm just going to dream big, I'm just going for it, you know. And when I looked back, I thought, my God, I've really come a long way, but there are a few that I still need a lot of work on, and that's more the action piece, and that I think comes around the boundaries and the commitments and those type of things. So the things we're kind of working through now is what I need to start putting in place to be able to complete all my goals.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for sharing. And I think, like I said, next week you're going to go through your bit of a review from each module of like take your big take homes, because actually some of it might not have landed, and that's okay. I'd rather you focus on the stuff that's really game changing for you and really like hold that close and not let that go, rather than try and do it all. So by reviewing module by module, we're kind of going to be able to like slip back into like, what was it about the crew? Like, what was it that's really powerful there that I've maybe not brought into kind of the next step in terms of action? And next week, I'd like you to share the best bit and then the biggest challenge, like the biggest hurdle, and as well as the biggest learning. So I think that'll be really interesting for us to kind of just share that, the positive and the harder bit as well, so that we can kind of own that, step into that as a collective as well. So I think that'll be quite nice to be able to reflect on that. And then the final week is basically a celebration event. It's going to kind of bring everything together, but we've got two more weeks, and then we're pretty much the end of April. It's mad, isn't it? And then obviously we'll have our event in the middle of, I think we've said second week of May anyway, but I'll get that alumni ready, set up. Well, it won't change where that is, but I will now go ahead with now most of you. The others probably, hopefully, will be a game as well. I actually didn't hear from Yasmin today. I presume she was coming, so I need to just the main thing is I've recorded the whole thing, which is good. So yeah, on that note, I'm kind of almost going to close unless we have any questions and any more comments about anything you guys feel like you need post program, so that I can make sure it's there for you, it's kind of accessible. Because a really good feedback from Karen on Sunday was about having, for the future cohorts, having like a electronic booklet that has all the like activities, space for like the answers to the questions. And I think that's really good feedback, because I'm getting rid of Google Drive completely, by the way. In the future, I'm just going to use Slack because it was too much. But again, it's knowing, okay, what would have made that easier, and like, well, how can I really hold you to account moving forward? So again, any ideas, maybe not for now, feel free to just pop them in Slack for me, because I want this to be the right, feel like you've got everything you need to succeed. So yeah, that's the risk of being a guinea pig. I will ask you those questions.
A question, you know, the Thinkific.
Yeah.
What is it, Natalie?
Thinkific. Yeah, it's weird. Thinkific. Yeah.
Thinkific. Is that document going to be available to us in the future?
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll have that. Yeah, you'll have that forever. So you don't need to worry about putting off anything. But what I will do as well, I haven't done it yet, but I will do it for before May, is I'll send everyone the booklet that I make, the kind of I don't know what I'll call it, but some kind of like the workbook, so that you guys can then have that, just if you want to go back, redo anything. But if you ever want to do like one module again, you'll have the workbook to complete, almost as a blank workbook, really, because that's the biggest thing. I think I've done coach programs that are e-learning as well, and I think I've struggled because I'm the kind of person that has 6 different notebooks, and I'm like, which one did I write it in? You know, it can be quite confusing, can't it? Like having it all in one place is quite powerful. It becomes your like journey within journal almost. It becomes your reflection memento from like your safe for safekeeping, really.
I like that. I like the way you've just said that.
It becomes something quite special, doesn't it?
Yeah. It does.
And that's something for me to think about, how then I can, whether that's a physical thing, I'm not sure, but there's something around that keeps us grounded in itself, I think.
Yeah, and imagine when we're long gone and someone finds it in the loft.
Oh wow, isn't that amazing? Like, what's this, you know? Yeah.
Sorry, I know.
I feel like what we've kind of got here, weirdly, and I don't know if many of you do these things, but it's kind of like a women's circle, isn't it? It is kind of like a women's circle pretty much, but it's like less, because a lot of the women's circles start very spiritual, like set up from a spiritual place, but we've kind of framed it. It's still a very similar energy, and I think maybe that's what the alumni turns into. It's that.
Oh my God, please can we set a fire and dance around the fire? Because I would just absolutely love that.
I would love, honestly, what a journey within women's circles. Like, let's make it a thing, guys. Find me like a good, well, Molly, you've already found me like a good, what was that place you told me I should run events at in Oxford?
Tap Social.
Yeah, we can't do a fire there, but I'll find me like the right, like if anyone has any land, like find me the land, and then we'll put Arisha on planning the event, because she's an events planner. There we go, nailed it. I'll let her know. Yeah, honestly,
I actually have a field,
okay,
so we can set fire to whatever we like there.
Oh, really?
As long as we don't set fire to the horses, obviously we have to tie them up somewhere else, but we can do whatever we like there.
There we go. We have got everything we need.
No horses on fire.
No.
Oh God. See, this is just the beginning.
Well, the possibilities are endless. I can see outfits and all sorts of crazy stuff going on here.
Oh my God. Oh, you guys.
I can dress up like a butterfly. Eurasia can dress up like a lion. Please, I want to have like those little, those wings that little girls wear, and like little, they look like a little backpack sleeves. Oh my gosh, I need those, please.
Please
do our leader within fancy dress.
Yeah, we could meet once a month with our dressing as our leader within. Yeah. Oh my God.
Dance around the fire.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys are joking or not, because I'm not. Okay.
I realise that you're not, but I will participate, definitely.
Oh, how funny.
I love
this.
The online like kind of celebratory thing. It's the 6th, isn't it? Thursday the 6th of May.
I think
That's
it
what
might-
Eurasia said.
yeah, it is the second. Yeah, it's the Thursday. Yeah, the 6th. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so we'll pretty much have next week. Oh yeah, so that'll be quite nice because the next week we have 2 more weeks of these, and then we have that event. So the actual closing celebration event does directly follow. So we're actually, yeah, almost takes us to the middle of May pretty much. So you're stuck with us for a bit longer, and then we'll go into the VIP anyway. So I might plan our first kind of VIP type session maybe towards the end of May or early June, and just have like a chance for us just to have an hour to kind of reconnect. And I'll bring a topic, but it'll be quite fluid with just us checking in on how we've been over the last month. It probably won't be too formal. I think that's probably going to serve us a bit better, isn't it? Us bringing the stuff that we feel like we've struggled with and then working through it as a group.
Yeah, all good.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Right. Thank you for your time, everyone. I'm aware I've run over, so please go enjoy your evening. And we do have meditation at 8:30, obviously Aries energy all over that. So feel free to join us if you are available.
Lovely. Thank you. See you, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.